Welcome to the Story-Eyed Podcast. My name is Brendan.
And I'm Jen. On this show, we talk about all things Williams syndrome. We're excited to share our community with you. Thanks for being here.
I could do like DJ voice today. My body realized, okay, we've made it through the state tournament. We've made it through launching camp. We've made it through all these things. So now you can get sick. And boom. Yeah. And it just, but
You know, nothing says 2-year anniversary like the cold.
I have terrible twos all right in through here.
You know, it's been really helping me with like not getting sick. It's emergency. I've been using the crystals, the new.
I just ran out. I gotta go.
So good. They're so good. They're like, so you don't need to use water for them. They're like pop rocks. Yeah, they're cool.
It's great. Between that and the liquid IV, the the immunity booster one.
Yep.
I mean, the fact that this is the first cold I've had, all year, all winter, so let's go ahead and if you guys want to sponsor us, Liquid IV or crystals, we're a helpful podcast. We're out here just trying to help.
We are. Yep. One of us may have been addicted to emergency at one point, so you may not be able to talk about your great products, but
that person
at one time
would have been addicted because of its
amazing qualities.
Amazing qualities. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So hey, happy 2-year anniversary, everybody.
2-year anniversary.
We did it. You guys want a little bit of statage?
Yeah, yes, I think that would be fun.
Our podcast. This is the audio version of the podcast has almost 14,000 downloads.
Wow.
The YouTube has over 15,000 views. I love the two.
Look at me. I'm figuring it out, you guys, real time. Yeah. Oh, that's way more fun. 15.
And then our Facebook. Again, Facebook is really hard to quantify what the videos are, just the videos of the podcast are pulling in. But we're at about, around 15,000 views just on Facebook, which all of that is great. However, I think the thing that I enjoy the most, and I sent this information to you guys not too long ago, but I was doing a deep dive in some of the stats.
You were nerding out.
I was totally nerding out. And we average about 30 unique listeners per episode. And remember, these numbers may not sound huge, but we're just a tiny little niche podcast. We talked about Williamson
numbers and stuff.
But we get our unique engaged listeners is about 17 per episode. And the average consumption per episode is 62%, which means that when people are tuning in, they're tuning in for almost all of it. If you can be beyond 50% in your listener retainage for an episode, you're doing really, really great. So
that's an interesting stat. Thank you for listening to 62% of our shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Should listen to 100.
My guess is that they probably should tune in. They skip the part where Joel talks a lot.
And they come to just you.
They go right to the interviews.
No.
Unique listeners, about 30 per episode. And this is just the audio version. This is just the audio version that we're getting these 30 per episode. That most of the people are still consuming this podcast on YouTube.
Okay.
So just the audio version of this, where they listen to this glorious voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to think that the retention rate on this one is going to be about 7% until I shut up and we bring on Jon Kent or something. And we've had some lovely people reach out to send us congratulations. Probably our number one supporter on YouTube, Pim.
Yes, her. Yeah, she's really cool.
I asked Pim if she wanted to be on the show.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, no, I don't think anyone, I don't know that I need to be on the show. Ooh. She didn't feel confident about that, which someday I think we'll be able to.
Someday, Kim.
We'll keep asking and we'll keep wearing her down.
We'll wrangle her and get her on here.
Yeah, I mean, Kim,
Mhm,
Come
if
on,
you've listened
Pam.
to the show, you know,
mhm.
like,
But
we
here's
don't
the
know
deal.
anything
Here's the
about
deal. What I didn't know about Pim.
Okay.
Pim doesn't actually have a child with Williams syndrome.
Okay. What?
I know. The questions that she asks and the comments that she gives,
Oh, I
I
love
jumped right to the
oh,
parent.
makes it even better then.
It is her family friend's son,
Okay.
and Pim and her mom are his daycare providers.
Oh,
Okay.
see, I love that. Oh, yep.
And
Love that.
so big shout out to Jackson and Avery
Yeah.
from Pim. So Pim, you are A plus gold star. You are croutons and hearts.
You are croutons and hearts.
Croutons
Yes.
and hearts. And we just really appreciate everything that you have brought to our YouTube page. Lauren Martinson, it's been great as a parent to hear from so many people involved in the WS community. Her daughter is coming up on her third birthday, and they had a diagnosis on day 9. So, that
Wow.
this is a kid who's growing up in the starry-eyed era.
Yes.
And Seth,
Not long ago, there was none of this. There
yeah,
was none of this.
good old Seth Link loved being on the show last October.
Of course, we love him.
Christopher
Yeah.
McClung, of course.
He's
Just
ready to be on again.
the board gave us a shout out. I'll insert
Yeah.
that. Maybe I'll do that right here.
We're like, you are cool.
Hey, Joe wanted us to do this thing, and I got Sarah involved in it, and she
I
helped out.
forced them. I forced them to love us.
Force. That's how
Oh,
most
we
people love us. I mean, that's how I get most of my love. So
Yeah, no,
I think
Board
it
was
makes
talking
sense.
about the podcast a lot, and they love it. So
So today we have Jon Kent.
we have the lovely Jon Kent, who's been one of my best friends for over 20 years.
John has a great story. You guys talk about it in the interview, but John has been part of this community for years as a videographer and photographer. But now we have ensnared him, and he is our philanthropy and development guy. And then because I sound like this and I haven't been feeling 100%, we're gonna revisit some of our favorite moments from the last couple years,
Yeah.
our favorite interviews, our favorite moments. Hey, you know what I'll put in there? I'll make sure to put in there where croutons and hearts came from.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I'm so happy to be able to do this with you guys, and I really, really appreciate you both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this is a very important way to spread awareness about Williams syndrome. I mean, I'm a big podcast consumer. And so for me, thinking way back when Stella was first diagnosed, if I would have had a way like a podcast to learn about Williams syndrome and, quote unquote, meet so many individuals with Williams syndrome and hear about what they were doing in their life. Like, I just feel like that would have been such a helpful tool,
Yeah.
especially for people who are busy. I mean, I definitely sought out some of that on my own, but it was a lot of work to do, and it took a lot of time, and obviously covered a lot of ground in terms of like meeting people in my community and meeting people at conventions. And I had to wait, right, to meet people with Williams syndrome until I went to a convention. I think that this is a way to get information fast and furiously and hopefully funny. Fast, furious, funny. I hope people enjoy it. I mean, we enjoy it.
Yeah.
Does it matter about anybody else? I don't know.
Well, it's in Pim. We have Pim.
Pim enjoys it, and that's all that matters. Thank you,
Pim
Pim.
to the rescue.
And Brendan, you came from a guest on episode 1 to now. Here we are, 2 years into this.
It's so funny how the stars aligned and everything kind of like became full circle. It's really special.
Mhm.
And I also want to give a big big shout out to John. While we were in Nashville, he had a presentation prepared, and the first slide is a picture of me and Clancy. He said if it wasn't for, Clancy and I, then he wouldn't be there.
Mhm.
All these years later. So that made me feel really special. So I just thank you, John. And also shout out to Airborne. Airborne is really good too. Airborne is
Are you
really
circling this back to a sponsor?
no, 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 no. I'm just saying.
Well, you're always working. You're always thinking about furthering our cause. That's great. That's what we want. I think our next goal, as we think about 2 years, right, is like, can we be cool enough to get some people who want us to sell their stuff?
Yeah.
I think we'd be great at it, clearly.
Hey, live reads. We can produce some commercials.
Yes.
Yeah, we know people so that
That is the limit.
if you wanted like a celebrity cameo by someone like Stella, I bet
Right.
Stella would come on.
There's so many Williams syndrome people who would be great.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
I am not addicted to Airborne, so I could rep Airborne.
Yeah.
See.
I rock Airborne and Emergency and Prime and Liquid IV sometime.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yep, good stuff.
Here's to 2 years.
Enjoy our favorite clips and enjoy meeting Jon Kent.
Yes.
And that's that.
That's how we roll. Let's go. Hey, John, how are you?
Good, Brendan, my old friend.
My dear friend.
That's right, dear friend.
Yep. So, for those who might not know who you are or don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do for the WSA?
Well, I'm John. I'm vice president for philanthropy and communications. So I help raise money and kind of do the messaging, I'd say the storytelling. I'll start by saying that Brendan and I met 20 years ago. Is that right?
It's that is correct.
At a music camp at Vanderbilt, where my whole career has been in fundraising and communication and storytelling, and right out of college with a philosophy degree. And when you major in philosophy, the job offers come flying at you.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
I entered the job market going, what can I do? Started working for the American Cancer Society when I was like 20 years old, did grassroots fundraising, moved on to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where I did fundraising and storytelling for Vanderbilt. And that's where in 2005, I got an assignment to cover a Williams syndrome music camp.
Yeah.
Now, I was aware of, I'd been working in the area of autism and developmental disabilities with a few different clients, but I wasn't really familiar with Williams syndrome. And there is a Williams syndrome researcher at Vanderbilt named Elizabeth Dykins. The director of the Kennedy Center at Vanderbilt was a gentleman named Pat Levitt, brilliant brain scientist. Don't let him hear me call him brilliant, because he is. We're very good friends and we like to kind of joke around with each other. But anyway, that first time that I started documenting Williams syndrome at that camp, Brendan was there and Clancy. Ben Moncaba was part of that. It was Avi Lesser, who I've worked with, and his family. It was just a really magical time. That week was amazing.
Yeah, Seth was there too.
Seth Link, yeah, absolutely. So I had a company for 20 something years that did nonprofit communication and storytelling and helping on the fundraising, and then thrilled that a couple of months ago I joined the WSA as a staff person, so sort of an official part of the family.
Yeah. It's great. It's funny how the stars align, right?
Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
Yep. You never know.
Well, I always say that everything happens for a reason, and sometimes that reason doesn't show itself for, what did you say, 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I had worked on and off with the WSA as a videographer consultant on messaging and fundraising, somewhat on fundraising, more on the video and messaging side. So the Arizona was my fifth convention that I've attended. And so I've always been, and I've done three documentary film, well, more actually, 4 or 5 documentary films on Williams syndrome. And I'm totally convinced that I have more media on Williams syndrome than anybody in the world. There's just almost no way anybody could have more, because people kind of get into it for a project, but rarely do they kind of stay on top of it. And so I have hard drive after hard drive of images and video, and I think I have the definitive collection, most extensive collection of media. So
yeah, I'm always curious. I actually went to, very sad, but I went to a funeral this last weekend for an individual with Williams syndrome, and it was my first. So I've been to a lot of events with people with Williams syndrome, but this was the first funeral. And, it was interesting to hear when they were chatting about this individual, how impactful he was to the family and their community's collective lives. And I imagine that it's similar, for you. I mean, obviously as a parent, it's that way for me, but for you, you step in. And were you just like engaged immediately, like from that first visit, or how do you, like, what was it, do you think, that led you to then, keep Williams syndrome as a throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, sort of the main thing, the top thing is I just, from that very first week I was with Brendan and Seth and company, I just felt good when people with Williams syndrome were around, when I was around them or they're around me. I just felt like I was a better person almost. I was in a better mood. I thought they were fun and entertaining and fascinating and loving. And so it was just sort of like, the best of humanity. And it was a great feeling. And then when I started to get to know some of the scientists and the science, Dr. Belugi, the late Dr. Belugi, who was at the Salk Institute, one of the grand dames of neuroscience, had a lab at the Salk, was recruited by Jonas Salk to the Salk Institute. She and I would talk for hours, and she was always fascinating to talk to. But Williams syndrome just is a fascinating subject. So on an intellectual level, I thought it was fascinating, but it's been more personal. So if I go to my Facebook, I've got maybe 800 or 900 friends. I think a third of them are people with Williams probably. And we're always, we get on and are messaging back and forth. So it's just kind of loving the community and the families. And it's just an amazing group of people.
Yeah.
You're definitely a stampede of happiness for sure.
That title for one of my documentaries came from, I wish I could think of her name, but a person, it was at the convention, were we in Baltimore or Columbus, and she said, we're like a stampede of happiness. And I said, well, there's a title. Film titles are always best when they happen organically. And I thought, well, there's a title for that. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. Well, I come from, now I'm a mom, just a mom, but in my previous years when I worked, I was in business. And the thing that I think sometimes people don't remember when we're in a nonprofit space, right, is that we're still a business. We still have to money. In order to do the things that we want to do to serve our Williams syndrome people, we have to have dollars, right? And we have to be a good steward of those dollars. So all that to say, like, I think fundraising is like one of the most critical aspects of what we're doing from a community standpoint. Like, first, most important is our people with Williams syndrome. Second is the money so that we can do the things, right? And then everything else after that falls into place. So I love that we've got this more, what's the word I want to use? Like a more tangent focus on fundraising. And I love that you've got all this fundraising experience. So I'd love to hear like how the first few months of officially being in the WSA have been, and kind of your thoughts around fundraising and what our community can do to support your efforts.
Well, it's almost universal that people don't enjoy asking for money. They just, I mean, I think that even starts when I remember I was a kid and I grew up in the house where I'm speaking from now. So when I say I had to ask my dad for money, it was in this actual room that I approached him to say,
Oh,
"Hey,
you
Dad, I need some money, for school or for," and he would always say, "Well, for what? What do you need it for?" And the larger the amount, the more I had to sort of make a case for it. But fundraising as just as an activity is something that that most people don't like to do, and so fundraising, a lot of times fundraising has become events and things that sort of cover up the idea that you have to ask somebody. So in school, it was like you sell candy bars, or they'll sell cookies, or they're all kind of products, or they'll have a bake sale. It's like whatever they can do to not have to just simply ask somebody for money. And so the way that many organizations raise money has sort of been that model only expanded to where they have events and they have galas and just a lot of different activities. I come out of a background that is the way the American Cancer Society raised money, mainly through events. So I'm trained in that, but more of my background is with universities, medical center, the big institutions. They raise money through directly asking people to give and coming up with and packaging their different programs and projects to try to get larger gifts. And so it's a combination. You want everybody to participate, but you also want to package things in case somebody wants to make a larger investment in a specific project. So when I had been preaching that to the WSA for several years, that this is a different model of fundraising that we could embrace and balance it with the beautiful community-based fundraising that we have. These are not either ors, and this complementary approach. And so I've spent the last couple of months trying to understand who our donors are, and I'm just talking to them. I love to talk on the phone. I'd rather do that than email. I just sort of old school. I wanted to know who the people are and just kind of get to know their stories, and that's really how I've begun.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think that's great. Did you say that you live in the house you grew up in? That's cool.
Yes, I live. It's called the Amityville house because it is pretty much the spitting image of the Amityville Horror House.
Okay,
And if you grew up in the 70s in this house, it was real when the Amityville Horror came out. It was really, especially the side of my house. It's a Dutch colonial. I'm in Nashville,
Okay.
but yeah, no, I live in the house that I grew up. I haven't lived here my entire life, but much of it. And I moved back. I was in New York for a couple of years, but I moved when I moved back. I'm here. This is where my wife and we have a little Australian Shepherd mini Aussie. This is where we are.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you definitely are right. It's fundraising is a word that for some reason gives a lot of people anxiety. And it's very important to have a diversified fundraising strategy. So, you can't just do like community-based events. You can't just do, the big asks that you're asking for from more of like the institutional or, large donor community. You have to have both end. And so that's really important. Are you leading both of those efforts now for the WSA, or do you have one and somebody else has the other?
Well, I lead the fundraising and the communication effort, but I will not be as hands-on with walks and so forth.
Yeah.
Other staff are leading those. I will be providing support, and I came out of the Relay for Life was a big part of my life. The American Cancer Society had a very sort of famous walk called Relay for Life, which I was part of the committees on for many years, and so I'll be trying to help with that effort, but my day-to-day will be more talking to the donors directly than orchestrating events.
Sure. Okay. And how is that like going for you so far? I mean, our community is pretty small and tight knit. Are you finding lots of opportunities? Because we really have never like turned this stone over.
Well, I think, yeah, there are lots of opportunities. I mean, the thing about what's so funny about fundraising, the irony of it is that we hate to ask people, but people love to give. I mean,
Yep, that's true.
people feel good when they are given, when they give money or their time or talent to an organization. It always makes them feel good. And so the idea when you talk to people is, is you try to approach donors as individuals and families who have their own philanthropic priorities, their own dreams for what they might want to see. And it's sort of trying to just blend what the organization is trying to do with what a donor might want to see happen or create in terms of a legacy or just a project that they feel really passionate about. So it's a bit like being a broker where you're trying to bring these two sides together. And I think that, it's just one of the most important things that we treat our donors as individuals and not as sources of income. Just these are not ATM machines. These are people who have their hearts in it. They're willing to invest in it. And we want to partner with them and show them that what they can do can really matter to the lives of people with Williams and their family.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, like we're a family who take advantage of like as many things as we possibly can in the Williams syndrome community. And it does matter, right? Those dollars are being used to increase the enrichment of families and individuals living with Williams syndrome. It's working on that research piece that we talked so much about. It's giving us access. Like I'm a big education person, so I love coming to the convention and hearing all of the new educational strategies, because then I'm taking that around and, using that in my local community. So, I mean, sometimes like we think it's just about that moment or like that person dealing with Williams syndrome, right? But there's so many ripples that come out of actively being engaged in a community like this one. That, obviously, like you were saying, pay dividends. So I think that that's really important that you said that. So do you have things that you're focusing on then coming into first quarter that you can share with our listeners if they're interested in what Jon is doing?
Well, we are part of what I'm doing is stewarding, is saying thank you, which is I've spent a lot of my time.
Also important.
Yeah, I mean, stewarding the donors, and you want to say thank you, and you also want to show them why their gift mattered. And so that's many nonprofits really struggle with once they get a gift, you don't hear back from them. I don't. That's the opposite of the way that we want to be. We want to be responsive to our donors. We want to let them know how much we appreciate it. We are just now starting to consider what projects that we are going to offer people in terms of investments, if you will. And we had a board retreat, and the board did some visioning and brainstorming. And my job is to listen to the board and the community, and Sarah, our director, and to help go out and to find the resources that the community dreams about having. And so we are just really starting to kind of decide what are some of the first things that we're going to try to offer for our donors and donor prospects. I keep using the term investments because these are investments and that have very real returns and in enriching lives. So, but there's nothing right off the bat that I would go, well, this is it. I mainly have been stewarding and saying thank you. And then beginning to start going, oh, okay, how do we want to package opportunities for people?
Well, I mean, and in some way, right, like you were saying, money is scary, right? Like it's a scary ask for people, but it's also in many cases tied to a deep connection. And you're right, you have to go out and make those relationships, right? And really understand the needs of the people donating money and seeing if you can create like a win-win for everybody. Yeah. Now, I also am of the mindset that I'm like, I don't want you to give me like a gimmick or a thing. Like, I just tell me what you need and I'll give you some right? Some money.
That's
So
kind of the way it
people out
works.
there that exists too, and they just have never been asked.
Yeah. Most have not been asked directly. It's just
Okay.
yeah, most people have not, and it's there's not you just sort of summed up how it works. I mean, you just people talk and they have. I mean, it's not as there are lots of ways to complicate it, but it's not really that complicated. The process, but we want to have we will have opportunities. People we know that some people are interested in research. We know some people are interested in educational programs. We know some people might be interested in scholarships for the convention. We have donors who have set up funds. There's a lady I spoke to in California who has a fund she set up many years ago to help pay for music lesson and opportunities, musical opportunities for the community. And so different people have their different, we want to have a menu of opportunities so that people have a choice and that they can, and sometimes donors will help create new opportunities based on something that we might not have envisioned. And so, it's a back and forth process.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, right? I think some people don't realize that, if they think like if I make a donation, right, I don't know what my money goes to, but you certainly have like some say in that, right? We need to hear from the community on what's important to them. And if you are a person that's bringing in large dollars, making sure that your funds go to where you want them to go. Some people are real passionate about research, which I'm always like, that is not my thing. Like, I know nothing about the medical stuff. I'm real passionate about education, right? So I want my dollars to go there. Some people want them to go to camp because camp is a life-changing experience. Some people want them to go to initiatives that help, our marginalized community members access our programming and resources. So I think there is a lot of opportunity that we can take advantage of as it relates to the strategy. So it's exciting to have you on board. Did you guys do anything fun in Nashville or did you just work?
No, we did. Some of the fun things we did were we went out and saw John's band play at a place called the Five Spot in East Nashville, which was really it's kind of like a little divey bar, but it was really fun. Then we went out for dinner at this like really nice American restaurant. They had us outside and
it's a little chilly out that night, wasn't it?
It was chilly out that night, but they have like big heaters and stuff with a group of like 14 or 15 people. And they gave us like blankets so we could stay warm. And we got to do some fun things on our own. Like I went to Luke Bryan's bar with one of the board members, Lizette. We went out on our own. We went out for barbecue for lunch after the meeting ended on Sunday. Place called Martin's, and I got to spend time with one of my best friends, Seth, who has Williams syndrome, and I got to see my best friend Caleb, who I haven't seen since he got married, probably like 6-something years ago. It was really cool. We had a great time.
You were busy, Brendan.
Yeah,
per usual. Did you have time to do your secretary job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I got very involved and participated in a lot of things. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, well, per usual, we're
Yeah.
lucky to have you. So, John, you play in a band.
I played in a band since I was a kid, playing fraternity parties in college, and I just keep, we don't play fraternity parties anymore.
Right.
We're a little senior for that, but no, we play cover rock. We're called the Cover Ups, and we play like rock and roll, Tom Petty and Pretenders, and we had a big crowd. It was packed.
It was really bad.
And I don't know why, but it was packed, and it was fun, but it was interesting because I went from the board retreat to the stage to do a sound check at the club, and then the board came out, and many of the board members came out, and Sarah came out, and then we had our dinner after the gig. So it was we packed a lot in. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Took
what
the guitar, threw the amp in the car, and drove to the restaurant.
So you play guitar.
Yes.
I'm a left-handed guitar player. I'm one of the rare guitar players in Nashville. No, everybody in Nashville plays guitar, and everybody's in a band, and it's a very competitive place to. I mean, playing in Nashville in the clubs, you look out, and there's always people that are just staring at. Okay, these are other guitar players that are just kind of trying to see what
They
you're
do
doing.
go out and
And it
stuff.
helps to be left-handed because they kind of give up, like, oh, he's doing it all backwards. So we're gonna leave him alone, look at somebody else. But yeah, it was great to have the crew in the house.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. I'm always telling Brendan that I think we should have okay, so you probably know this, but Brendan used to be in a band. And was it all Williams syndrome people?
It was.
The Can Do Band.
Yes.
Yeah. I have
yeah.
my Candy Band sweatshirt on right now.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you do that called merch? Are you sending us merch? I think you said that you had extra.
I could work on that.
I heard it's packed
like
away.
some.
I have this. I'm like, okay, could we like bring the band together for Buffalo and have a performance? Brendan doesn't know if he can get everybody together, but maybe we could just like slide you in as an alternative.
I'd be happy to. Knowing the Williams community, there would be a lot of stand-ins. But would I be love to be up there? I sure would. It'd be fun.
Yeah. What I can say is there are some things in the works, but things are still getting figured out and worked out. But that's what I can say for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and counting, but something to happen. I need that in my life. So this time goes by real quickly. So we're like already done. It's amazing. You start out and you're like, what am I going to talk about for like 30 minutes? And then you're like, did I talk about anything in 30 minutes? Jon, I was thinking like the last question I'm going to ask you before then I let you kind of end your share thoughts is, can you share with the community if they have not seen your documentaries, just what they are and where they can find them? And then I would love to hear any other things you want to share before we close out.
Okay. Well, the easiest one to find online now is A Stampede of Happiness, which is on Amazon Prime. And that was shot at a couple of the conventions where I just decided to turn the camera on the Williams syndrome crowd and just let it rip, basically. And then the Embraceable in 2011, I think it's on Vimeo Direct. And if it's not, I'll put it back on. But I did that with Terry Monkeba and Ben, and a lot of my friends from that I mentioned from the original camp. It was on TV in 7 countries, I think, and translated into 5 languages. It was shown at the World Games in Greece. We had a film festival in Greece that it premiered at a festival called the Thessaloniki Festival. That one's a little longer, and one of the cool things about that film is that Tommy Barbarella, Tommy Barbarella, called me one day. He knew I was doing the film, and he offered to score some music for it. And I'm like, yes. Sure. Yeah, he's such a great talent and a great man and a lovely family. And so he did some music, which I'm really proud of as part of that documentary. And then if they reach out to me, the couple of films that we did with Avi, followed Avi to Graceland, it's called Avi in the Court of the King. I'll put that one on, make sure that one's available. These things go to film festivals, and then sometimes they kind of sit. I'll make sure and anybody can reach out to me that they can see that, probably through Vimeo on demand. Yeah, so that's how you can see the film.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Anything else that you want to share with the community? I mean, including how to get a hold of you if they're interested in learning more about the work you've done or how they can participate in fundraising?
Well, so I am J. Kent at williams-syndrome.org. That's the easy way to get me. I mean, one thing I think is important is that we realize that our community is strong and we're a big family, and we really have to support each other, because people who are not, there's so many causes to give to. And so if people don't have a direct link to Williams syndrome, it's hard to get people, philanthropists, to give to something that they're not, where they don't have an emotional tie, because they probably do to cancer or heart disease or their university's medical, or just the university in general, their alma mater. There's so many things that it's important, I think, for our community to know we need to support the WSA because we're not gonna get a lot of external support from big foundations or corporations or even philanthropists who don't have a direct tie. And so that's one thing I think that I kind of I'd like for people to know. And most of the people, when I talk to our donors, the WSA is among the closest charities to their heart. And so, we have an amazing group, and people are very generous, and we deeply appreciate the big gifts, the medium-sized gifts, the small gifts. We appreciate every dollar that people give to us, and we want to make sure we are good stewards.
Yeah, I think maybe one of like the donors or sponsors we could look into is Sweetwater. I love Sweetwater. Sweetwater's like one of my favorite music store companies. They have really great musical instruments, and their service is really great, and they're good people. And yeah,
Well, it sounds like we could advertise them on this podcast. You brought them so much.
Yeah. They ought to do that. Yeah.
They don't even know what they're missing because you have brought them up so many times.
I have.
We should be talking to them.
Yeah.
Brendan will showcase all your products.
No. Well, Brendan said, and I think that the people with Williams syndrome, Brendan, Clancy, are some of the ones that he's mentioned. They're sort of natural fundraisers,
Yeah.
because they're so social and unafraid to talk to people, and so it's really kind of fun because I think that they are some of them are just natural fundraisers themselves. So
Exactly. Well, I'm excited to meet you, John. I'll probably meet you in Buffalo, and I'm excited for this band surprise thing that you're working on, Brendan.
yeah, well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed being on.
Yeah.
And congratulations on 2 great years and all your success. And I can see why people love to listen to you.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
All right.
We end every show with hearts and croutons, and it's a great story about croutons, but hearts are more easy for people to understand. Yeah, we'll see it. Can you do it, Brendan? My thing doesn't let me do it. See?
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Starry-Eyed Effect. I'm Steph.
And I'm Jen. On this podcast, we'll be chatting about all things Williams syndrome.
The ups and the downs and living with Williams syndrome.
We are excited to share our community with you. Thanks for being here. Absolutely. I agree. I'm all about that. That's my snaps when I get excited about something.
Music to me is everything. It's taught me a lot about myself.
Oh, do you like vanilla ice?
I do. See? I knew you could do it.
Vanilla ice cream. Yeah. I think I have a date for you.
Really?
Stephanie,
Yes.
will you be my date?
Yes, I will.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. So please don't take my sunshine away.
I mean, you have been a part of not only Williams syndrome, but like our evolution of Williams syndrome.
Absolutely.
And what we know
So,
about it.
we did a lot of research at the time. The first meeting I went to, someone will have to tell me when it was. It was in San Diego. There were about 60 participants there at a motel in San Diego. And it's the first time that I met other people that had children with Williams syndrome. It was an eye-opening experience for me.
So yes, we will be living together until Monday. And so that has been interesting as well, because you go from growing up together in the same house, a big gap of 20 years, 25 years. Then all of a sudden you find yourself tapping back into your childhood, like when you were kids, with all of us living together.
Yeah. We get along and not get along, but that's just how it is,
I'm a medical geneticist. I set up one of the first clinics, multidisciplinary clinics for Williams syndrome before most of you were born in 1987. Mm-hmm. So I've been working with people with Williams syndrome and their families for a long time.
Let's jump right into it.
Let's get right into there, buds. Let's
Brandon,
go.
if you are listening to us on the podcast, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Woohoo!
Happy Halloween.
Brendan, of course, is iconically dressed as Marty
The
McFly.
one and only.
Jen, hi. For those of you who are listening, we cannot see Jennifer's face. Is she a scrubbing bubble like from the those commercials, the scrubbing bubble commercials?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not that.
I, of course, am dressed as an alien Dilophosaurus.
7Q1123 is the home address of the Williams syndrome critical region. And so it's just kind of remarkable that that date came around this year. It's not coming around again in any of our lives.
But maybe you and your mom could talk about it, just how you got diagnosed.
Well, you're such a roller coaster,
I was on such another level. It was crazy.
It was a roller coaster for you. It was so unfair.
And to be diagnosed like that, it sucked.
The goal is to have that true multidisciplinary clinic where a person with Williams can be in the room and rotate through specialists and say, what do you need from renal? What do you need from cardiology? What do you need from genetics? What testing do you need? And making sure you're on that pathway. That's the dream. In practice, we're really just trying to get expertise. We're getting those experts so then the parents and the families aren't having to be the ones, which I'm sure you've felt before, explaining what Williams is and telling doctors what they need to look for and having to be the expert yourself, which is great in education and the family education is super important in that. But the way we do it in Williams is try to get the clinicians to be the experts and to be educating the families more, right? And having that kind of more well-rounded expertise that can care for the whole body that way.
Which Girl Scout cookie do you think is the most overrated?
I'm going to go with Thin Mint. It's overrated.
No.
We can't be friends.
What are you talking about?
It's a good cookie, but it ain't all that. I will also point out that I'm saying this and my wife's not home. And
Right.
so I feel safe. I feel
I
safe
don't
to say that.
Sophia was at camp last year. Like every day I would watch her at mealtime and she would get a giant bowl of croutons. And I was like, that is impressive. Like you are really committed to croutons.
We say this with the highest amount of praise, and this is the highest compliment we could possibly give. She's a bag of croutons.
She's a bag of, you are a bag of croutons.
We should all aspire to be bags of croutons.
I'm a passionate person that loves to just go all out. I don't give a bleep about not having fun. Okay? I love having fun with doing crazy things. Like
love it. Go off, sis. Go off.
Not having fun. I give a about having fun. Okay?
Yes.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Starry-Eyed Podcast Live.
Yeah.
What's up, Brendan? I feel sweaty, you guys. All these eyes looking at me, I feel real sweaty right now.
Yep.
This is the new Williams Syndrome educational profile. The audience for this is teachers. So this was designed to be handed out and given to teachers, just so that teachers have a good picture really quickly of who this kiddo is that's in their classroom.
Number 5. Okay, Brendan, what is your go-to phrase? A phrase that you use a lot.
Ooh. What's up?
Brett said awesome sauce.
You said awesome sauce.
Yeah, I do use awesome sauce.
You're both still tied. You guys knitting.
Wow.
Yeah. Fireworks. That fireworks.
Thank you.
This has been the Starry-Eyed Podcast, presented by the Williams Syndrome Association. The show is hosted by Jennifer Keaton and Brendan Lemieux, and produced by me, Joel Listman. Theme song by Tommy Barbarella and Mariella Elm. Got a question for the show? Email us at podcast@williams-syndrome.org or message us at the Starry-Eyed Podcast page on Facebook. Video version of the podcast available on the Williams Syndrome Association channel on YouTube or on Facebook. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or comment on the video version and maybe it will be featured on a future episode. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Starry-Eyed Podcast wherever you get your podcast delights.